this special edition live stream with Shaun Djie from DIGIX, CEO. Thank you, Shaun, for joining.
Thank you, Mel. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So, and indeed, my name is Mel Gelderman, co-founder of Monolith. Sorry, we just changed names. So, yes, today we're going to have a bit of a back and forth discussion. It's not necessarily an interview, it's just, we're just going to talk a bit about how the industry's developed, about how our products, how they're synergetic with each other. If this goes well, hopefully for ourselves in the future, I'll be talking more with other founders and co-founders and executives at other projects we partner with, which would be really cool. Sorry. Oh, right. Is this okay? So it's not. I can't leave it anywhere.
I don't know. Just give it.
All right. So, how close should I hold it?
It's fine.
All right. I hope everyone heard me. I'm sure it's okay. So yes, in the future we'd like to have more discussions about with other founders of projects, and like specifically talk about how what they're doing, is important for the Ethereum industry, and how it works. How our product helps bring it, into the real world. And so yeah, DIGIX, physical gold. What's it like being probably one of the coolest companies in our industry, Shaun?
Right. So thank you for having me on this live stream. I believe this is the first guest appearance. We call it that way. As you know, the gold commodity space is definitely a very old industry. So being the new kid on the block, we definitely get our fair share of criticism as well as praises for pioneering this whole new digital economy.
Yeah.
So coming up with the idea of tokenized gold itself, it's not, I would say, a new concept. You have a lot of digital gold trading that's being offered to retail or corporate investors at large. But what we do have as a unique selling position here is to sell tokenized gold that can be transferable to anyone on a peer-to-peer basis via the Ethereum blockchain network.
Yeah.
So this token, I think that we have been discussing a lot about on all the press releases, is called DGX. That represents 1 gram of physical gold that we have in the vaults. So these tokens itself are issued on the Ethereum blockchain, which means that anyone could store it in Ethereum wallets, transfer it to anyone who has an Ethereum address, and verify its trace of transactions.
Yeah, you guys are like the Star Wars of your industry, right? Where all other companies are quite slow moving, the industry hasn't changed a lot, and then suddenly this Ethereum startup comes along with the craziest idea, and it uses blockchain to solve these standard industry issues, right? Like paper gold. So yeah, is that something you think you've kind of found the ideal solution for?
Right, I think that's a very nice way to put it, as the Star Wars of the whole group here. I think that blockchain itself helps the traditional gold industry in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
One is the idea of transferability. So you could transfer gold between anyone on a peer-to-peer basis. But more often than not, the technology is used for the idea of provenance, which is to track how these gold bars come around, how are they being stored, as well as how often they're being audited. That entire idea around creating a digital record of paper trail is what that makes DIGIX tick.
Yeah.
So what we have on the back end is this technology called the proof of provenance, which essentially shows all the documents related to purchasing, storing, as well as auditing the metal. And in that manner, we are able to prove that our gold tokens are 100% backed at any point in time, and anyone could actually verify all these existence on the Ethereum blockchain.
So I've been cooking up a theory that because DIGIX DGX is one of the only ways to have a certain guarantee that it's fully backed by gold, compared to if you're buying gold from a more traditional company, you don't know if that gold's been sold 5 times before that same gram. Theoretically, that means that DIGIX gold should be worth more than the trading price of gold on an exchange. Do you think in the future, if you guys do really well, that we'll see some sort of runaway effect where regular companies are throwing gold at DIGIX to get tokenized because DIGIX gold is worth more than gold that is untokenized because it's just not as trustworthy.
Right. So there's two ways to look at this. Firstly, I believe that gold that exchanges 5 times or 10 times across different hands doesn't really degrade the value of the token unless it goes through a chain of unverified custody. Right. The whole point about DIGIX's goal is that the custody is always in one single place. Hence, we could always verify that it's never been tampered with.
Yeah.
Right. Potentially, would DIGIX gold token be worth more than 1 gram? Maybe yes. Maybe yes, maybe no. One of the ideas I'm thinking that it might be more of a yes is because if you were to go to any traditional gold dealer and you were to buy 1 gram of gold or 1.4 gram of gold, firstly, it's very hard for them to actually slice down into like a decimal placing of gold. It doesn't make any economic sense. And buying it on a gram basis, you actually incur a lot more premiums. So for example, let's say if you were to buy 1 gram of gold into a jeweler store today, you will likely be paying upwards of 30 to 40% more on a gram basis as compared to buying 1 gram of gold from DIGIX.
Yeah.
So maybe yes, on that kind of like idea, potentially DIGIX gold token itself would be priced above spot prices on that basis. But what we do have on the back end as well, we are working closely with liquidity providers to try to ensure that the DIGIX stable asset coin prices are stable, right? Otherwise, what's the whole point of actually creating this project? So on that basis, we are actually able to offer very tight spread prices on most of the exchanges that we are currently listed on. Exchanges like Bitfinex, Uniswap, Kyber, these are all the different platforms that you can actually buy DGX from.
Yeah. So, yes, the ideal dream really here in our partnership is that we make gold usable for people every day, right? That like someone actually considers switching from their old bank account where the money is stored with this massive entity, and their value is held in the form of a currency they don't really trust, right? And that's probably like deflationary, into something where they control the assets they hold, and that the asset they hold is actually tangible. They know it's backed by something that they could literally physically redeem if they wanted. How do we get there? We've built, the combination of our products is quite magical. How do we get to a position where people out here are actually, actually using it?
Right. So I think that right now the entire fiat system is actually very encouraging to most people because they actually receive payments or salaries in fiat, and they actually pay out in fiat. But I think what you guys at Monolith are doing, which is an outstanding job, which is to provide non-custodial wallets, is to really give the power back to the people, right? And I think Bitcoin itself is a social experiment that has been proven to be right for the last like almost 10 over years, that you do trust source code to provide an internet value.
Yeah.
So I think this concept of actually transferring value across the internet over a bunch of codes and having non-custodialship would be a good way to actually create a kind of mentality in people that you own your assets and you could spend from it. The idea of spending in gold is not definitely a very popular one for now, but I do think that there are a lot of encouraging signs to point that gold as a commodity itself is appreciating almost on a monthly basis this year. Due to a lot of different kind of economic uncertainty that's happening around the world. You have the US-China trade wars. You have, of course, the Argentinian currency as well going through a very high period of inflation. So these are the kind of like regions or markets that we do see having the biggest potential for actually buying gold as a store of value. I think that buying gold as a store of value is probably the first idea that should come to mind before actually thinking about spending it. Because we hold in fiat because we trust that fiat is a store of value, right? And of course, from Singapore, from where I come from, the country is definitely a very stable one, and we don't really question too much about the idea of a fiat currency. But what we do question the idea is the idea of cross-border payments. How could it be more efficient? How could it be cheaper? How could it be faster? And I think that all these ties in with the idea of the whole new rise of cryptocurrency and how it could transform cross-border remittances.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be quite exciting if, the potential really is that for a lot of people still in the world, the idea of cryptocurrency is still crazy, right? And like, even though now people are a lot more used to the idea of what a Bitcoin is and that it can have value, it's still, it's still hard to for people to wrap their heads around why it has so much value, right? And I think you guys are in like a really unique position to actually like pioneer digital assets, because it is tangible. We just need to, we're going to do our best together to get to a place where people do start using this and know that they can liquidate it immediately as well, right? That you can actually live off this stuff rather than just having gold as a store of value exclusively. You can actually rely on it as well.
I mean, in DIGIX as well, we do promote gold in three forms, right? We do promote gold about the idea about buying gold, about holding gold, and spending in gold. So the idea of buying gold itself, it's just giving people the concept of store of value. Holding it allows you to actually appreciate your own economic wealth, as well as to trust a certain asset that withstood the time of economic uncertainty. Spending it is a new angle that we're trying to push forward here at the company. So apart from just like partnering with you guys, obviously on the payment kind of space, we also recently announced a couple of other partnerships with other payment partners, which I wouldn't go too much into details of that. But the idea around paying in gold is something we're trying to promote across different regions of the world. You guys obviously have a bigger outreach here in the EU, so I think it's great that we're partnering up to promote this idea here. Other partners that we have been working with promotes the idea in Korea, in other parts of South America, and even across Asia as well. So I think payments itself as using gold as an idea would be more popular as we get along in different regions of the world. And of course the whole new rise of the DeFi platforms we've been seeing. We also partner with a couple of companies out there who actually have been helping our gold token users to actually collateralize and actually borrow against what they have. I think that would making gold as well, making digital gold, or rather a blockchain gold, a bankable asset, is probably one of the ways to actually increase adoption across the retail side. That's when people could do something with the gold. For many years, or even like in a traditional vaulting world, you don't really do much with the gold that you have. You probably put it in the vaults, you pay for storage, you hope that it appreciates, and you have it as a form of security against your own peace of mind. But what we're trying to help our users out there is to enable them to be able to use it for something else, to unlock the liquidity in the physical metal itself.
I think that would be a great addition. We're trying to integrate various decentralized finance dApps in our wallet natively ourselves as well. And indeed, I think it's like the synergy between all the different platforms that makes our collective industry so valuable. So what about, will I one day be able to come by in Singapore and redeem 100 grams of DIGIX gold and film it, the process?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So we actually had 4 redemption orders that took place over the course of the last 18 months since we launched the gold token. 4 of them actually came forward to redeem a physical 100-gram bar. A couple of them actually wanted to test the entire life process of going from digital tokens into physical assets. Right? And we proved to them that you could do it within a period of, like, let's say, 24 to 48 hours.
Right.
So the most recent one was done about maybe 2 months ago, where this gentleman came forward to us and redeemed a physical gold bar and sold it back to the bullion dealer for fiat cash. So he was able to turn digital gold into cash within a period of like 24 hours. So absolutely, if you want to come by, see the vaults here we have in Singapore, feel free to come by. We're happy to host you anytime.
That'd be fun. So we met about 3 years ago now at DevCon 2 in Shanghai. The industry has changed a lot since then. I think. What are some of the changes you've seen? How is the world now different than you thought it was going to be back then?
I think it's almost been 3 years, right, since Shanghai. I do think that the entire industry had seen a lot of different trends. So if you look at 2016, it was definitely the year of ICOs and all the different forms of capital raising on the blockchain itself. 2017 was probably a year where we saw a lot of new protocols emerge, right? A lot of competition to what Ethereum has on the 1.0 layer. Not so much on the scaling part, because that's something that's ongoing at any point in time. So you have a lot of different new protocols that came around and emerged. Last year perhaps was probably the year of stablecoins, where you saw a lot of different kinds of stablecoins being developed, either being USD fiat-backed, driven by algorithms like the Maker system, or you have even collateral-backed stablecoins. And now in this year particularly, I mean, we're here for the Web3 Summit that's hosted by the foundation.
Yeah.
I do see a lot of focus on the idea of DAOs and the concept of how to actually run and grow one, perhaps, right? So I think that this year we'll see a new trend of DAOs. Over the last 3 years, a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
Definitely. We went through the whole entire, I would say, like, ups and downs in terms of like prices, in terms of value, in terms of talent even coming to the space. So I think that it's still a industry that's worth coming into, and we're all still here after all these years. And I believe that, I mean, you guys are pioneers as well in this entire space. You will see equally as much as I do. Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like to a degree back in the early days, there was more visionary talk going on. I feel like in a way there's been a bit of a slowdown in the Ethereum space, where like less, even though there's a lot more people involved and a lot of stuff is going on, a lot of like the earlier projects are making amazing progress. I feel like people are a bit less adventurous than they were back in the day. Is this a trend that you see as well, or?
Yeah, I see that as well. I see people being a little bit more realistic, which is a good sign in a way.
Yeah.
Right? Being visionary, of course, has its own appeals, but at the same time, we need to be able to remain prudent as well as to see how practical all these approaches could be. I think yesterday, even at the Web3 Summit, I was very humbled to see there's so many new technologies being shipped into the space. At the same time, like a lot more other entrepreneurs out there are being a bit more practical about the business.
So I need to adjust something on the mic apparently. 1 second, everyone.
Always the blue button, always when you speak.
Okay.
Let me hold it aside.
Yeah, you hold it.
Yeah, hold it. So I do think that the entire space has become a bit more practical. Teams are probably downsizing. Some talent might have already left the space, but I don't think it's a sunset industry, perhaps.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, I think that there's a lot more new talent who are passionate about what they're seeing in this space, and they're coming in actively into, which is encouraging for not just ourselves, but for other future people to actually see this.
Yeah, I agree. However, we're at the Web3 Foundation's summit, and they've obviously created Polkadot and substrates. Do you think that the Ethereum economy that we're all building together is going to remain like the one that's like the cutting edge and like the biggest, or do you think there's a chance that we'll see some sort of cannibalism between something like Polkadot? Yeah.
Right. I think that's probably a very commonly asked question in the last 6 months of this year. I do think that these two technologies themselves would be able to complement each other in the future to come. This whole Ethereum economy right now is very dominant in the space. Like if you talk to any kind of projects out there, almost all of them would definitely know about Ethereum and have been using Ethereum in some way or another.
Yeah.
Right. Either to transfer value, to raise capital, to just like run tests and develop technologies on top of it. As for Polkadot and the whole new idea of creating this whole new internet economy for them, right? I don't think it's a form of cannibalism to what Ethereum has today, but I think a lot of developers out there would be able to have more options, and I think it's always a good thing to have options in this space, right? To assess and see which is a more practical one, which is more efficient when it comes to actually building a business on top of it. So yeah, I think it could offer a good competitive edge to what we have today in this space.
Yeah, I think we have to.
Always hand over the mic to the person who is talking. That's really important.
Okay. So I think potentially what we'll see in the long term is this one of the things that Gavin Wood said yesterday, that that there's going to be a lot of different, that there's no end game network today yet, right? Like the type of network we want 20 years from today is so much more advanced and like scalable and all this stuff than any network we have today. And so that kind of means that like obviously this hopefully will be Ethereum, but potentially we'll see like this migration of the Ethereum economy over like different platforms. Maybe we'll support all the different platforms as time goes on. It's we don't know yet. Yeah, it's definitely heating up. Is there any point at which you would have DIGIX make the switch to something new?
Right, so there is no actual metric that we are actively looking at to consider this as a switch. We are always open to learning about new technologies and new platforms that are being developed today. So we've been studying what Substrate has been can offer to the business. We are of course entirely built on Ethereum for now. So everything from the DIGIX Gold tokens, the marketplace, the DIGIX DAO community page, everything is built entirely on Ethereum. And I don't think that will likely change for a while to come until we find a better solution out there. But we always remain very supportive to either technologies, helping to look out for either tech talent who wants to learn about this technology, or even providing any kind of like commentary that we could to both sides of the foundation.
All right. So we've seen companies over the last few years come out on like an array of spectrums, right? So on the most decentralized spectrum, we have stuff like the MakerDAO, where in their ideal world, they are purely software based, as in like they only operate on the Ethereum blockchain. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have non-custodial services, right? So companies that offer non-custodial services, but the companies themselves are closer to regular companies. And this is all under the umbrella of decentralized finance. Like how did DIGIX come to a conclusion as to where on that scale you'll fall, and how are you okay with that? Because a bit of historic context is when Ethereum first went live back in the early days, there was still a lot of negativity towards the idea that any service in this blockchain industry would be like not entirely decentralized, right? So even Ethereum as a project, the idea that it was crowdfunded, the idea that it was ran by a group of core devs rather than like anonymous people, was crazy, right? To a lot of people back then. But we've seen the industry shift closer towards a bit more level-headed, practical approaches and decentralizing where it matters most.
Agreed. Yeah.
How does DIGIX fall on that scale?
Right, so those are really good observations. As we've seen earlier in the days, you have companies like Mel and Shaun, MakerDAO, who are pretty much quite decentralized in pretty much most aspect of the business, with regards to actually running the actual metric of the interest rate, the governance, all the way down to fund management level at Mel and Shaun, right? At DIGIX right now, we are very practical. So we are practical where it matters, as you rightly pointed out. We're decentralizing aspects of the business where it could be decentralized. For example, let's say like having the whole trail of gold tokens being placed on the Ethereum chain itself. Yeah, then we will leave it on the Ethereum chain. But there are a lot of physical centrality to the business that we have to be managing. Things around potential licensing, agreements with the vaults, having a physical entity set up to ring fence our customer assets from our own balance sheet. These are stuff that you could not avoid from the off-chain part of the world, right? Which I believe that you guys do have that kind of front as well for that. So yeah, I think that this model itself appeals mostly to the pragmatists, people who are actually practical about what they're trying to solve in this world. At the same time, realizing that, okay, there are some things that we can't really decentralize, right? Which is like real corporate governance.
Yeah. Indeed, we agree in that there's just so much stuff that we have to do in the real world to make a unique service available. Let me see. One of the other things that kind of makes our company similar in a certain sense is our involvement with our local regulators. So we work a lot with the FCA, and our experiences with them have been that even though they're like a really broad organization where sometimes opinions on different sides of the organization can be different about a certain topic, overall we actually have like really enjoyed working with them, where it's clear that their only real interest is consumer protection. And they totally understand technology. It's slow, but they definitely get why the Ethereum space is so amazing, why you can build products that are better than traditional services. And they're a bit worried about companies like us though, because they also realize that if we were to have our way, if our dream were to come true, then we kind of risk destabilizing the world as it stands. and that is one of their other things that they protect against, like the stability. What have your experiences been with working with the MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore?
Right. So the MAS, which stands for, like as you mentioned, Monetary Authority of Singapore, is the central bank and the regulator of most financial services here, back there in Singapore. So we work closely with them as well as Enterprise Singapore, who is the actual regulator of commodities back home. They have been very forthcoming with what they expect of us as an innovative company. So they do provide us answers or even like feedback on where the business is going. They do provide leads as well as opening connections to different parts of the world where we wish to actually pursue our economic interests. So I do think that it's been a very healthy relationship that we have with the regulators back home. Singapore itself is still going through a period where we're trying to issue a new act that will actually govern a lot of different cryptocurrencies. It will fall into different categories. This act is called the Payment Services Act, which is coming out pretty much quite soon. It's likely going to be end of this year or early next year. It's a bill that is likely going to be welcoming to most people in that part of the world, as we draw most of the crypto attention from Asia, apart from Hong Kong as well as Tokyo. I would say that perhaps even you might see this, but in Europe, I would say the crypto valley is in Zug. The crypto valley of Asia is definitely in Singapore.
Yeah. So, have you actually seen our card?
Not quite yet. I've seen like graphics of it online, but I haven't really seen.
So I'll bring it out. Here is this is a live reaction
Wow.
of Shaun. So
nice. Yeah, it's very sleek.
I'll buy some drinks for us with gold tonight.
Yeah, actually I have a book as well. Almost the same color.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's for you. It's written by myself as well as Kai, who is the co-founder and CEO of DIGIX. So we wrote this book for about over a year, just mainly to cover people who have been promoting cryptocurrencies out there in Asia, and we might be doing a second edition very soon, where we likely want to potentially cover you, just to provide some experience and testimonial of what you've been seeing in your part of the world.
Cool. This is really exciting.
Yeah.
How do you find the time to write a book?
Well, we find the time to interview the people, and then
right.
we had someone just like manage the entire book printing process.
I see.
But, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna keep this, but you can't.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one whenever I can get one.
Yeah, hopefully we can bring the product to Singapore.
Sure. Yeah.
Soon.
I mean, most of my customers are actually based in Europe, so I will be sure to give a shout out from what you guys have been doing, and hopefully get them on board as part of your customers as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I have some more stuff in my bag that you can bring home to Singapore, to Kai and Anthony.
Okay.
But overall, I think my team and our project and company is completely committed to finding a way to making gold like a staple of, or specifically DIGIX gold, obviously, to making that a staple of like almost everyone's future portfolio, because like truly the world will actually like become a better place where people have more stable lives if they use tokens such as the one you've created. So I think that has to conclude our talk, unless there's any like final questions or thoughts.
No, I think it's pretty much it's good to see you again, and it's been a long time coming for this partnership to come live, so thank you very much.
No, Shaun, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone.
We're going to go back to the conference now. Eric Snowden is about to come on, so we don't want to miss him.
We don't miss him at 1:30. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.